Hi, I'm Bill Manold, and this is my camera person.
Lisa Manold.
I've been building computers for about 20 years, ever since the 486 computer came out. Then by the time the Pentium came out in the mid to late 90s, I was hooked. So I finally gotten around, almost 20 years later, to building a computer on video. So here we go. Hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Bill Manold, and today is May 15th, 2011, and these are the parts for the next computer build I'm going to do, and let's get into it. This here, we're going to use the Gigabyte mid-tower ATX case. ATX is the form factor, mid-tower is the size of the case. You'll need to remember ATX because we are going to use this Gigabyte P67A D3B3 brand new motherboard. It is the new LGA 1155 series. The chips just came out. There was 1156. The second generation is 1155. This is the motherboard. It is still sticky, hot off the presses. Okay, moving on from the motherboard, we're going to use the Intel Core i7, again LGA 1155. This is the i7 2600K processor. The K means it is unlocked, and as you can read on the box, unlocked and unleashed. This means you can overclock this processor. I think this processor standard speed is 3.4 gigahertz, but I'm already seeing guys running them at 4 gigahertz. And this processor will sit in the motherboard in that socket right there. And this motherboard is ATX, and ATX means it fits in the ATX case. So when you're looking to buy a case, you want to buy a mid-tower case, ATX factor, and you want to buy one without a power supply. I'll get into more detail of each part as we go along. This is just an overview of the parts we're going to use. So we have the case, the motherboard, and the CPU, and we're going to use 16 gigabytes of DDR3 dual RAM. And these are the individual modules. Each one of these modules is 4 gigabytes. When you purchase these are the Corsair DDR3 8 gigabyte packaging. There's 2 more in here, and these are 1600 megahertz. 1300 megahertz are the norm depending on what motherboard you purchase. This is the Gigabyte motherboard. Depends on how fast of RAM you can put in it. And these slots here, first the blue slots, we'll populate with these 2 here, and then the white slots will be the 2 that are in here, and that's the RAM that's going to go in it. 16 gigabytes of DDR3 dual channel Corsair RAM running at 1600 megahertz. Okay, next I've chosen the Samsung. Let me get it out here. Samsung Blu-ray drive. It's a Blu-ray reader. I'm really into home theater, so we need to burn Blu-rays. This also is a DVD and CD writer. I'll give prices on down the road as I install these, but we're going to use the Samsung BD-ROM DVD writer model SHB123. Next, we're going to discuss video. So you don't get confused when you're buying your motherboard on the 1155 form factor. This is the Gigabyte P67A. The P is very important. The P means that there is no onboard video. 1155 motherboards with an H instead of like the P67A that you see here. If it had the H67, if they're called named with an H, it means they do have the onboard video, and you don't need to run an extra video card. I did play around with an H video card, and here on the outputs they would have DVI out, VGA out, and they even have HDMI out. When I played with that in the Windows 7 experience score, the video output was in the 6 range. I think it was a 6.3, and which is very good, but not good enough. This computer, all the Windows Experience scores, we're going to shoot for 7.7 all the way up to 7.9. So, with that in mind, these chips, even this i7 2600K LGA 1155 CPU, if you put this chip in an H motherboard, you would already have video. This is not the case. I am going to use two Sapphire Radeon 577 video cards. They are completely awesome. They come with their own display out, HDMI out, and two DVI outs, and we will be running them in the 16 time slots here, one there, the other one here, and we will be running them in what's called Crossfire X. Will be just the awesome video out here, and they do have the new 6000 series video cards out, but unless you're a very high-end gamer, these video cards, again, this is the Sapphire Radeon 5770s, they have the best specs for running home theater. Your high definition video, these are the cards to use. Okay, for storage and speed of storage and holding the operating system and our programs, I'm going to use the OCZ Vertex 2 SATA 2 solid state drives. This one's 120 gigabytes. These are the fastest I can find on the market. These are reading and writing right around the 280 megabits per second. To give a comparison, a standard hard drive, spinning hard drive, reads anywhere from only 50 to, I would say, 100 megabits a second. These are 200 and on average 275 megabytes per second read and write. One of these is good enough. I am going to install two of them in RAID 0. What RAID 0 means is the computer will read and write to both of these at the same time. I can't wait to install them and just see how fast they will go. The one downfall, I guess, to a RAID 0 is if one of these drives ever fails, you lose the data on both your drives. These are crazy fast. This here is going to be our storage drive, and this is a Western Digital. Let me turn this off for a second and take it out. Okay, and from our super fast OCZ Vertex 2 solid state drives, running in RAID 0 to do all of the work. Video processing mostly is what I do. Our storage drive is going to be this 1.5 terabyte Western Digital green. It's the Caviar green, and that will hold enough storage just to get all of the work off of our working drives in RAID. Thank you very much. Let's get to building. Okay, the first thing I want to do when building this computer is I want to put the CPU on the motherboard. First thing I got to talk to you about is static electricity. I always put my case, and if you don't get shocked by the case, touching the case, you don't have any static electricity in you. Some guys wear static wristbands to discharge static electricity. I do pretty well just by touching the metal on the case. Before you grab the motherboard, you want to make sure that you don't have any static electricity running through you. It will kill your motherboard. Okay, the first thing we need to do is take this pin, pull it out, slide it back. Everything comes apart nicely, and you're going to lift out this protection that is over the socket like so. Now you want to be very careful not to touch these pins or anything get on these pins. We're going to take out our CPU here, and this is it right here, and we're going to mount it. These come with their own fan, which is good enough. You can water cool these, use other fans you want. Do not tell Intel, it voids the warranty. If you use aftermarket cooling, everyone does it. They come pre-greased with the thermal grease to cool down the CPU. And let's cut. Okay, continuing on, touching my case again to make sure I don't have any static electricity. Our socket is open waiting for the processor, and we're going to be careful not to drop it, and we're going to be careful not to touch anything. And they only go in one way. And let me take a second to look here. These side notches, top and bottom notches, and if you can see these two other little notches are all gonna explain to how this chip goes in here. Is my head in the shot? Mm-mm. And according to this is going to drop in just like so. And we're in fine. Right, okay, we have the CPU in place, and there is still enough thermal grease on here. I'm not going to add any more. And then you want to gently but firmly, this slides back under here and locks down. And this does take a little pressure, but all the contacts need to be made secure, and lock that back down. And your CPU's in place. Okay, next we're going to put the cooling fan in place. We're going to touch the case again. And the cooling fan is a little tricky, but when you get it locked on, you'll know it's locked on and it won't come off. There's these little pins and these pieces that shoot down through the pins through the back side to spread the bottom part of the pin to lock it in place. You want to be careful not to crack your motherboard in half. But it does take a little bit of effort to get these fans on. And there was the first one, went through nicely. And here's the second one. And actually this one is going nice. Usually when you're filming something, it's the opposite of nice. But this is actually going really easy. And the fourth one. Okay, And then you want to make sure that this doesn't come loose, because the worst thing you want to have happen is when you're encoding 40 minutes of Blu-ray video to have your CPU overheat. And I am very happy with that. Now on your motherboard you have different places for fans. System fan here, case fan here, and you definitely want to have the CPU fan here, because in the BIOS and the CMOS, the BIOS needs to regulate the spinning and the speed of this fan to keep this processor cool. Another thing, when this fan comes boxed up and it's brand new, for neat packaging, this wiring is locked in under these things. There's these little pins here, so it comes like this. I recommend you completely remove them out of there. As my wife can tell you, she has spent many times with her little fingers. These will grab the fin and spin and lock this wire down into the fan. So just a little hint and a little clue: take all the wiring off of the fan. And it only goes one way. There's a little slot right here, a little slot right here on the pins. My head was in the shot. Okay. And it is as simple as that, as locking it down. And there you have it. CPU installed, fan installed, and we can... Okay, next we're going to install RAM. We've got awesome Corsair RAM here. We're going to put in 16 gigabytes of RAM. We're going to touch our case again. Make sure we don't have any static electricity running through us when we touch the motherboard and our RAM. I have tested these two RAM sticks and know they are fine. And we're going to try to open them up here. Okay, getting into the RAM. There it is. You do not want to touch these connectors points here. And they do pack them in tight so they don't rattle too much in shipping. So getting them out isn't the easiest thing to do. But when you get one out, you have it. Okay. Now the first thing you want to populate is these blue slots here. Because it's dual channel, so it runs these two channels and then these two channels, the white channel secondly. There is a notch, and there's a notch here in the slot, so it'll only go one way. You want to make sure that your connector pins are open as wide as they can. Sometimes they come closed like that. You want to make sure they're open, and we're going to drop it in and line it up. And then how you know it's installed, you be firm but you don't break it. You just push down on one side and the connector pin will automatically come up. And as soon as it clips in, you know you're good. And you do it to the other side and you hear that click, you're good. And let's get into the other one here a little bit quicker than the first time. And we're going to pop that out. Be careful not to touch the connectors. And these come in kits of 2, so you want to populate them properly on the motherboard. And another thing, if you have to return these, you have to return them both, because it's a kit of 2. So even if one stick of RAM's bad, you have to replace them both. Okay, and we have our first 8 gigabytes of RAM in here, 4 and 4. Okay, our second set of RAM. This one is sealed up. I haven't even been in here to test them, look at them. Straight from, I don't know if I bought these from Tiger Direct or Amazon. But here's the second kit of 8 gigabytes of RAM. And we're going to simply put them in. Just like we did the others, they line up. Make sure your pins are open. Drop them in the slot. Gently but firmly push till you get the click. Same with the back side. And there you have it. And remember where you put this RAM, because when we test and we get this computer turned on, if you need to return a stick of RAM, they have numbers on here and codes to match your boxes. Keep everything, don't throw anything away until you're happy with your build. Line them up. Make sure they're open. Firmly lock in place. Wasn't too happy with that one. Let's do that one again. Let's do the other side first. That's good. That's good. If I have any trouble with RAM, I'll tell you right now it's going to be in this last slot here. But we're good. And now your RAM's installed. Alright, that's all we're going to do with the motherboard for now. So you can go ahead and set it aside. And we're going to prepare the case for the motherboard and the rest of the hardware. Your case won't come like this with all these stickers. Unless you buy all those parts, you get all these cool stickers with it. But the first thing you want to do when you get your case is you want to open it up. And I usually only open up one side and work from one side. And it's 2 simple screws. And then the case door just slides off like so. And inside, this is a big baggie. I've already been in this case and worked with this case. Go ahead. Okay, the first thing you can do with your case once you get it open, I kind of want you to shoot down in a little more. Can you see down in it? Mm-hmm. Is I just want you to make sure that your motherboard will line up in your case. And all these holes in here is how you're going to mount the case to the motherboard to the case. And you just want to check for room, because as you put the power supply in and your hard drives and everything, you just want to make sure and see what's going to be in the way. The first thing I see, this has rear facing SATA ports right here. That's so they're easier to get to with video cards and stuff. Usually can cover up the SATA ports when they're straight flush down and you can't get to them to use them. So as I see here, we're going to be careful to make sure we can get to these SATA ports to hook up our hardware. So this is going to work fine. And so let's put the motherboard back away. You're going to get a baggie of parts. It's not going to be in this big baggie. It's going to be in this little baggie like this. And then you're going to take that out and just lay them all out. And you don't mount the motherboard right into the case with the screws. You need to use these mounting posts. And I just use the 6 of them strategically in the case. They come with these plastic push-ons also, but if you use these push-ons, you'll never get the case back out without having to cut these off. So by building a few computers, I know where these go, and there's these mounting holes in here. Can you see them? Mm-hmm. And it's real simple for support to get the outside corners of the board and a little bit in the middle for support, like so. And then for the last 2, I'm actually going to grab the board again and make sure where I'm putting the things they line up. Believe it or not, a lot of people mount their motherboards in here without putting those posts in and wonder why their motherboard is completely shorting out. So those 2 line up there, these 2 line up here, and then these last 2, there's some back ones, these last 2 are all the way out to the side. So that's where the last 2 I'm gonna put are gonna go. Just be gentle with your motherboard as you put it in and out. Okay, so all 6 mounting posts are in. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about briefly, all these wires that are in the case. These are all for your hard drive light, your power switch, on off your reset switch, and your front panel sound is this, your audio. On the front panel, you've got an audio out and a mic in, and also your front USB port. So that's what those wires are for. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our Blu-ray, DVD, CD drive. I like to put them in the top slot here, and I need to do that first before I mount the power supply, because they're going to butt up together to leave more room in the case, and it's easier to do this before you put the motherboard in. So to do this, this case does come with a DVD drawer that opens, and I don't like them. So all of these front panels just pull out of here, if I can get it without breaking it. There you go, it just slides out of the way. And so do the other bays also, if you need to add more things. And then to put your drive in, it's real simple. Come through the front and mount it from the front in. It's a lot easier. And get it perfectly flush. And then we just need to mount it on the inside. Take a couple screws that come in the motherboard. And I don't like to use those, I like to use these. And just screw it into place. You don't need to take the other side of the case off. One side is fine. And it is definitely sturdy enough. And there you have it. Your drive is in and it looks good. Okay, the next thing I want to discuss is we need to get power and our SATA connection for the data connection to our drive. I have a 600 watt power supply here, and I know what connectors it has on it. Motherboard. Anyways, to get to the point, I know it only has 2 SATA power connectors on this, and I'm going to use both of these for my solid state Vertex drives. So this drive also takes a SATA connector, so I'm going to use a converter that converts a Molex power to a SATA power. We're just thinking ahead for problems later. Can you shoot in there? Mm-hmm. The light isn't very good right now. Go ahead. Okay, as you can see, I've hooked up my little light in here to make this easier. And I'm going to hook up this adapter to give power to the Blu-ray drive. And it just clips on like that. And then we're going to do the same thing with SATA. And this SATA has an L connector, which is really good, because the power supply is going to mount up against this. And this will make it easier just to keep the wiring out of the way. And there you have it. You have your drive installed. Okay, now it's time to install your power supply. Power supplies always go the fan facing down into the case. Helps clear the air and keep the power supply cool. So just fit it in. And be careful of your wires from your DVD drive or your Blu-ray drive or whatever that you just installed. And it slides in, and there's a little shelf inside. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want to come around. And it sits on a little shelf right here. And it fits in like that. And then there's just 4 screws that hold it in place in the 4 corners here. Just kind of wiggle it around and get it to where it looks good. And once you get one in, you can kind of pull it up, hold it in place, and put the rest of your screws in. And once you get two lined up, the rest will go easy. Those two. My arm's in the way of the shot. 3. And all these screws, actually the power supply, when you first open its box, I want to tell you the power supplies stink. All the new electronics will smell a little bit, and when you get them all fired up, don't worry about that smell. It goes away in a few days, but it's new electronic parts, and they do off-gas a little bit. So don't think anything's wrong if your computer smells. And that's there. And now your power supply is in. Okay, the next thing we need to do, which comes with the motherboard in your motherboard pack, is the input-output shield for your case. And what this does is makes it look pretty. So when you mount the motherboard, everything lines up. Motherboard's still sticky, it's so new. And that you just place in place the right direction, and you just kind of push on it, and it'll snap in place, we hope. There it goes. Okay. And then just one last quick thing I want to do before I put the motherboard in is I want to find, here's the Molex connectors. Those are the SATA connectors. PCI connector. Okay, these are our two on the 600 watt power supply, the two sets of Molex connectors. And I'm just going to use this one to hook up our DVD drive real quick, just because it's here. It only goes one way. There is a little indentation there and a little indentation here, and I don't have it right. There we go. Turn it around. How come I don't have it lined up? That goes like that, and that goes like that. And there we go. Just make sure it's snug and secure, and you can cut it there. So let's put the motherboard in. Let's grab the motherboard, and let's set it in here. Nice and gently here. Maybe. Okay. I'm hooked on there. I'm hooked on phonics. Alright, this I/O port's good. There we go. And we're lined up. And let's start screwing it in. And there's the first one. You want to be careful doing this, that you don't just haphazardly let your screwdriver slide all over the motherboard and etch and hurt something. My big fingers get in the way sometimes. There we go. And once you get it lined up, it's pretty easy just to mount it in there. And let's do this one over here. my head in the way here. There we go. Number 3. Let's do an easy one. Out here in the open. Number 4. In the front corner. My camera wife. Didn't focus that close, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, snug. And the last one up here. There's a little cooling fan on it. That's pretty cool. And this one I'll probably drop down below. Oh, there we go. That's just a cooling fin on top of those. All right. There we have it. Okay, just kind of looking there. The motherboard is done. And the import-output shield is done. And you can. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to install SATA cables into the motherboard because it makes it easier before I put the drives in. These SATA 0 and SATA 1 ports, these white ports right here, there's two on top, one on top of the other, are actually SATA 3, the new SATA 3 standard. And then we have 4, 2 on top of each other, of the SATA 2 standard. So I'm going to run the new Vertex solid state drives in RAID on the SATA 3 faster connectors. And I just want to get those installed before I try to put those in. And they got to be lined up properly. There we go. So I have those two in. Those will go for the solid state drives. This is the SATA cable coming off our Blu-ray DVD player. And we can install that right now too. And we'll put that on the SATA 2 connector. If we can get it to go. And I think we did. We'll know when we turn it on if it recognizes it or not. And then the fourth one, that's not going to work like that. We're going to go like this. And this is going to be for our third hard drive, which is the 1.5 terabyte Western Digital that we're going to use for storage. Okay, that one went. And I think we have all 4. Okay, for room and ease of use, I'm going to mount the SSD drives up here in outer space. And I'll show you why here in a couple moments. Just want to just get the first one installed. There's a couple reasons I'm going to put them up here. The first being the main power going to the motherboard sits right here, and with this drive sitting in this bay here, it's in the way there. And I want to install 2 video cards, and with this one in place and the drives here, they hit each other. So I'm going to mount these up here in outer space, and the SATA power connectors will reach easier also to do that. So I've hung the first one, and here comes the second bad boy. Oop. Cool sticker. And nice sealed drive. And I have taken these out and I have put them in another computer. I did format their drives and put the latest firmware on them, so they were ready for this build. And this is the first time I've installed them like this, but it seems like it'll be a cleaner install and keep all the components further apart from each other, which will help keep the case cooler but also perform function. And they're very light, so this is enough support for them. There's no moving parts inside. And there you have it. The two OCC solid state drives are installed. Okay, let's get these solid state drives some power. And I'm ready to go here. There's the first one. And there's the second one. Just like that. Very clean and very nice. Okay, this is the SATA cable going to our Blu-ray drive. Looks good. It's powered up. It's connected. Let's take our SATA cables and hook them up to our hard drives. And we'll call this one 0 in our RAID. That's on. And this one will be 1 in our RAID. And like this. Okay. And now our solid state drives are completely hooked up. Powered and data SATA cables. Okay, the next thing I want to do is just the basic wiring of the motherboard from the power supply. And the first one is the main 24 pin. Some motherboards have the 20 pin and you break that off right there, but this motherboard takes them all. And it's a simple connection. There's a little clip on the back side right there for this clip right here. And this is how it goes. You just line them up and lock it down. And that's it. You'll know if it works when you turn it on and you have no power whatsoever. But that was that. I'm just rechecking it a bunch because it flew in there. I'm used to them giving me a little bit of trouble. And the second one is down in here. Some motherboards take an 8 pin. This motherboard's taking a 4 pin. And once again, there's a clip right there. And you just plug it on. See, hear that one clicked, and I didn't hear this one click. But I know it went. Okay. Okay, the next thing I want to do is hook up, this is the front side audio ports. And it plugs right here on the motherboard. And let's hope I don't have to take it back out to put the video cards in. But it doesn't look like I'll get it on with the video cards in place. So there it is. Okay. Okay, next we've got to wire up the front of this case to the motherboard. Such thing as the power light, the hard drive light, the power switch, and the reset switch. And must look at the book, and they plug in here. And this is actually the only part of building a computer that is a little bit difficult for me. That you have to do this right or it will not turn on. So the first thing I'm going to do is the power LED, and I'm looking for the negative side of it, and this is the positive side right there, and this is the negative side, of which it goes on the first pin down here. And we check, and it actually went on. Okay, now the plus side of that light, double checking everything, and according to the manual it skips a peg and goes to the next peg. Which is that one there, and use a magnifying glass to make sure it's on there. Okay, then the other side is this little speaker, which is right here, and whenever you hear a computer turn on and you hear those little beep beep beeps as it's booting up, those beeps actually mean something, and you can look in your manual and they actually tell you as the computer posts if it is posting correctly. And the plus side is here and the minus is there. Let's see if we can get it to go. Okay. All right. Double check, and it looks good. Next in the list is the chassis intrusion header, which we don't use. We don't care if you open the case. The next is the reset switch. So we look for the reset switch. And that is this one right here. The positive side is away from us. So we count 2 pins and use the next 2 pins. And it said that the positive was away from us. And it'd be great if I could see in there better. Okay. And that looks good, and we can cut there. Okay, continuing on is the power switch. And it says the positive one is towards me. And on this side we count 2 pegs in, then use the next 2. Which is right in front of the reset switch that we just installed. And check it. And that looks good. And finally, we're going to put in the hard drive switch. You know that little light you see blinking on the front of your computer when your hard drive is active? That's what we're hooking up. And positive is towards us. Boy, and that one jumped on all by itself. Okay. Double check they're all down. And double check the book. And we're good. The only other thing we need to hook up is the front USB ports. And we're going to put them in. There is a new USB 3.0 standard. And we just need to count the holes here. And one's missing, so that goes there. And it plugs right here. Double check. We have the audio one over here. And there we have it. All the front side switches and lights and USB ports and audio are hooked up. Okay, next we're going to put our storage drive in, the 1.5 terabyte Western Digital Carver Green drive. And we're going to put that right here. And slide it into place. And grab a couple screws. It's going to be close for that video card and our USB cables. But I checked the other places and this seems to be the best place to put it. One in. Line that up. Okay, 2 in, and you can cut. Okay, next we've got to use this SATA to Molex adapter because our 600 watt power supply only had 2 SATA power connectors that we used here. So we're going to do the same thing as we did for the Blu-ray drive and install that here. Just like that. I'm going to grab a Molex here and line it up and give it power. That's very good and easy. And then finally, our last SATA connector goes right here. Now you don't have to worry about master and slave on your hard drives at all because on the newest motherboards with the SATA connectors with the SATA controller, you just put one in each one of the SATA connectors and you're set, and the BIOS will line it up. Okay, our 1.5 terabyte Western Digital is installed. Okay, we had to do a little modification on the Western Digital drive. The SATA cable that we were using was an L SATA cable, which was plugged in like that, which brought the cable in the way of the video card that we're going to install next. So we have removed it, and I had this red one sitting around which comes straight off, and so it's fine. Okay, next we're going to install both of our video cards. These are the Sapphire Radeon 5770s, and the first one's going to be tight in here for using the mid-tower case, and we need to break out another one of these backside brackets here. You just wiggle them and they're little pieces of cheap pieces of metal and they come right out. And then one thing you need to know in here is there's a little clip that has to be pushed to lock in the backside of the video card right here. Usually goes in pretty easy, but if you ever want to uninstall one of these and you just try to pull it out, a lot of guys break their motherboard off right here by not pushing this in to get it out of the way. So let's see how easy or difficult this card wants to go in for me here. Get the SATA cables out of the way. We have the front side done, and it's looking good. We line it up and we just push down and it seats in, and that is awesome right there. We'll worry about this cabling in a minute. We have to give it power. But the first thing I want to show you is on the front here. This case happens to have a little door, which makes it easy. And we swing the door out of the way, and you can get to the front side of this video card right here. And you step behind you and get a couple screws. One is usually good enough to hold it in place. And make sure that the ports are lined up and you can get to them easily. And let's see how many tries to knock this in the case here. Okay, and before you lock it down all the way, just make sure you can get to your ports. I'm going to show those ports. Can you see them? Mm-hmm. This is your HDMI right here that you want to make sure you can get to. And the first one's installed, and we just need to get it power. In this case has one PCI. There it is right there, and these take one on each card. So we pull it over here, get it down on here. And it is a 6-pin. It might be a 4-pin. Alright, let's cut here and let me look at the other card for a second. Upon looking at the other video card we're going to install, it is a 6-pin. So we will be putting this in here. It just doesn't want to be our friend and go easy. And it's going to slide in. There's nothing in its way. And there we have it. Okay. So the first of two Sapphire Radiant 5770 video cards are in place. It's clear, it's not touching anything. I like the SATA cables up here out of the way. We still don't have anything impeding anything in the case. And we can we're going to install our last piece of hardware, our second Sapphire Radiant card. And our 600 watt power supply does not have a second PCI. So I do have a PCI power adapter to Molex, and to be smarter this time, we're going to plug that in first while I have it out here. Okay, power's installed on it. We're going to set it down. Check, that one's good. And we have to knock out 2 more slots here. These are double slotted video cards. And so we're going to break away 2 more of these. There's one. And you need to be careful. A lot of guys are bleeding taking these out. They're just little slivers of metal. And they just break away. Okay, second one's out. And we're going to put this one in place. Rock it in here. Remember about that back clip if you ever want to uninstall one of these. Is my head totally in the shot? And there it is. I'm going to lock it down. And it went right into place. And that is just awesome. Grab a screw. Make sure you can get to these. Now if you look at these for a second. If you look at this for a second here, we have all these ports to where we can hook up monitors. And we're actually going to use all this power of both these video cards out of this one HDMI going to our big screen LCD TV. And all this processing power is mostly for me. I'm not that big of a gamer, but to that just came off, to process videos. So let's lock this down. Okay, and both our video cards are installed. You can cut for now. Okay, a couple finishing touches. We have to give this video card some power. And only goes one way. There we have it. Slide it on there good. And that's good. One of the Molex. We need to put our front screw back in place on the back side of the case. There it goes. No. It's up a little high. There it is. And there's a reason it doesn't want to go. Alright, it's gonna fight me. Fight me all you want when I'm almost done. Okay. Alright, last but not least, inside the case, we need to hook up the crossfire cables. And this is how you connect the two video cards together to create the crossfire. And then in the driver software, I'll be showing you how to turn that on. Because I'm not just going to show you the build of the computer. We're going to put the software on, create the RAID, set up the BIOS, all the way down till we have this perfectly working. Okay, our hardware is built. We have stuffed this awesome computer in this small mid-tower case. And I am happy with it. And we are going to actually put the case door on. Now you know why some guys have a clear-sided case. Because it's a shame to cover up all that hardware. Let me just lock it down in here. Slide it down. Put the mounting screws back in. Hold it in place. And there you have it. We have one awesome computer put together. There's the front side. USB ports are hooked up. The audio's hooked up. DVD drive, our power, our lights will light up, our reset switch. And on the back side, all of our connections. And next time, we will turn it on and start testing. Okay. Okay, I'm getting ready to turn on this computer we just built for the first time. I've hooked up a AOC 24-inch high definition monitor to run this testing on. And there's the computer. I've hooked up just a standard keyboard. I've got a wireless mouse laying around and just hooked up a couple simple speakers as we get everything hooked up. On the back side here, this AOC monitor has a nice DVI output, high definition. So that's what I've hooked up here too. When we run it to television, LCD television, we'll run it through the HDMI port, but for now, for testing, we're going to use this monitor. And we've hooked up the monitor, the computer, and the speakers to this power strip right here. These speakers are plugged in right here. On most all motherboards, the green is the line out. This is where we have the standard keyboard plugged in, and this is the USB for the wireless mouse I'm using. And that's simple enough. Let's turn it on for the first time and hope for the best. Okay, we're going to turn on the computer for its first time. And we have power. We have a power light, and we can see the Samsung Blu-ray player works, and open and shut the door, and hopefully we'll get a picture. There we go. We've got the BIOS gigabyte menu board, and now what should happen, it should go and it should lock up with an error because it's not going to find a hard drive. And that's what it's doing, and there we go. So far so good. Now we can check and make sure and see if the reset button works, and we're going to let this happen again. And pushing the reset button obviously reset it, and we're going to let it do exactly what it did the first time. I just heard the beep from that little speaker we installed in there on post, and we're going to notice here that we're going to hit the delete button the next time to get in the BIOS to see if the BIOS has registered all of our hardware. It should show us the hard drives and the RAM. It won't show the video cards because there is absolutely no drivers, and then until you load the operating system on there, you shouldn't see your video cards. Okay, so reset one more time, and this time on post, we're going to hit the delete key on our keyboard here and go into the BIOS. Right after the beep on the post, there's the screen. I'm tapping the delete key, and this time we should go into BIOS. And we did. The first thing in red up there is the motherboard intelligent tweaker. That happens to be if you want to overclock this computer. But let's just go in and see what we see. And I'm going to hit the enter key to go in here. And the first thing I notice is we do have a CPU that is running at 30, it's like 3.4 gigahertz actually. And our RAM is running at 1600 where it should be. And our total memory is a little over 16 gigabytes or 16,000 megabytes, which is fine. And so everything looks great. I'm going to go into the current status, which is highlighted in red. I'm pressing enter. And this is actually showing that all 4 cores of the processor is working. It is saying that it's the Intel Core i7-2600K CPU running at 3.4 gigahertz stock. And all 4 cores are running at that, so all 4 cores are working. This processor is actually really good. When we go into the device manager, when I have the operating system on here, you'll actually see that it looks like 8 processors are running it. 8 CPU processors are actually running on this computer. The i7-2600K CPU is a 4-core processor, but it has 2 threads per core, which will make Windows, it'll look like it has 8 processors in there. The next thing we just need to show you is where we put all those RAM sticks in 1, 2, 3, all 4 slots. All have 4 gigabytes of RAM, totaling 16 gigabytes or a little over 16,000 megabytes. So this all looks great. I'm actually not going to go into anything else. Oh, I can show you one more thing. Do you need to cut for your hand? All right, continuing on for the camera person's hand to rest. All right, we're going to escape out of this, and we're going to come back and we're going to go into, we're going to come out of here actually, and I want to see standard CMOS. We're going to come down one. And there we're showing today's date and today's time, and it is actually showing our OCZ vertexes in channel 0 and in channel 1, so they're both there. This is the Blu-ray drive that we stuck in the second channels, the reading of slaves, and this is the Western Digital hard drive, the 1.5 terabyte hard drive. So everything is being recognized. Once again, it is showing us our total memory, which is great, and everything in here is fine. So we are going to come out of here. We're going to press F10, and we are going to save the changes, and we're going to let it reboot, and we're going to lock up again. We're getting a good post. So our build was good so far. Everything looks great actually. And the computer is doing exactly what it should be doing. And next, after this, we're going to reboot and we're going to set up the RAID on the drives. Okay, this time we're going to reboot and we're going to go back into the BIOS and we're going to set those OCZ solid state drives into RAID. We're going to set up a RAID 0. And here on post, I am pushing the delete key to go back into the BIOS setup. And there we are. Set up the RAID. We've got to come into integrated peripherals, I believe. I'm doing this on the fly. And yes, that is right. And then right here on the PCH SATA control mode, it's set for IDE, which is okay for your standard hard drives. If you weren't going to do a RAID, we're going to press enter and go into this. The AHCI is what you want to run your single solid state drive on if you're going to put the operating system on it. We obviously are going to do a RAID setup, so we're going to move that there to RAID, and we are going to push enter to accept it, and then we are pushing F10 on the keyboard to save this and exit. And this time on startup, it's going to give us a new set of commands. It's going to load the array, and we're going to push Control-I on the keyboard right here, and we're going to go in to set up our hard drives in a RAID right there at the bottom, and we're in. So as you can see, this is the Intel Rapid Storage Technology option ROM, and this is how you set up a RAID. It shows our devices that we can put in the RAID. This is our storage hard drive, so we're going to just put these OCZ Veritech solid state drives in RAID. And number 1, which is highlighted, says create a RAID volume. So let's see what happens there. Enter. Let's give this a name. Volume 0 is fine with me. And RAID stripe. I needed, oh, that's up there at 128. This is, let's see, it definitely wants something written there. Let's call it fast. And do we hit enter? Let's see. Enter a unique volume name that has no special characters and is 16 characters or less. So this is what we have done. So do we hit enter? Let's hit enter. Okay, and that brings us down. RAID level is 0. We can change that if we're going to set up a different type of RAID, but we want RAID 0. And at the bottom you can see it says for performance. That's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to hit enter. We're going to select the disks, the hard drives that we want to be in our RAID. So we're going to hit enter, and we definitely want the first one. And it says select 2 to 6 disks to use in creating the volume. And select this. Let's do the first one here. What's it say to select this? Enter done. Select 2. Let's say how to select a disk. Let's see, previous, next.
Space to select disk.
All right, camera person's looking at the screen. Space to select disk. So we got space. Oh, and there, look at the little cute little triangle. And space. And we're done. Now enter to be done. And that's it. Now the stripe size. The higher the stripe size you do on a solid state drive, the better. And so I know 128K is the highest it will go. And the capacity is both of the drives. And so that is great there. And we're going to create the volume. Warning, all data on us like this will be lost. We don't have anything on them. Are you sure you want to create this? So a Y for yes. And that looks good. It says right here our volume name is fast, our RAID stripe, and we have 128K for the stripe, and our size is 214, which is both of those drives together, and make them bootable. So we need to escape to exit. Are you sure you want to exit? Yes. And now it's going to try to load the operating system. We're going to get the same error. And we're going to boot this up one more time to make sure that our RAID is there. And then the next thing will be to install Windows 7. And to see all 16 gigabytes of RAM, you cannot use a 32-bit operating system. You have to use a 64-bit operating system. 32-bit operating systems will only see 3 gigabytes of RAM. To see more than 3, you have to go to a 64 operating system. So let's reboot this one more time. And I'm just going to hit the restart key. And this time our RAID should come up and it should show our RAID that we're going to load the operating system on. And right here when it loads, it does. It shows members at the bottom there real quick, and I'm good to go. I'm going to let this finish and fail, and then we can turn off the computer, and then we'll go grab a Windows 64-bit disk and we'll load the operating system. Okay, it failed. I'm just going to power down. You can just hold the power button in and hold it until the computer shuts off. And there you have it. You can cut. Okay, we're going to load Windows 7 64-bit onto this computer now. And there's the disk. But first of all, this time when we're going to turn on the computer, this time during boot up, we're going to hit the delete key and go into the BIOS because I want to show you the boot sequences. So we're pushing the delete key and it should go in. Can you see that okay? Tilted that direction?
Mm-hmm.
Up like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're into the BIOS and we need to check the boot up order. And it's not in there. Advanced BIOS features. Yes. Okay, and if you can read where it says first boot device is the hard disk, and then the second boot device is the CD-ROM drive, your Blu-ray or DVD or CD-ROM drive, and actually want to leave it this way. Some guys say you should switch just for temporarily the CD-ROM drive to be the first boot device and change the hard disk to the second one. Well, I have found that with Windows needs to restart a bunch of times while it's loading, and it will constantly keep reading from this CD, the DVD for the setup here in the ROM drive every time it reboots. Instead, it's easier just to let your computer look for the hard disk, which it's not there because it hasn't been installed, and then it'll go to the CD. But then once Windows is on there, it will read from the hard disk and you won't have troubles with the CD-ROM. Little confusing, but I hope that made sense. But it is best to leave your boot devices like that. So we are going to put the CD in the drive, and to get out of BIOS, as always, we're going to push F10 on our keyboard, say yes to save the changes, and we're going to let it boot up, and it will find the CD drive. Okay, it's found the CD, and it's loading. Windows is loading files. And let's see how long this takes and is smooth. And we're going to turn on and off the camera through this just when it's sitting here loading files and stuff, just so it doesn't, you don't need to watch this forever. Watch Windows loading files. So go ahead and cut for a second. Okay, we're back and Windows is still loading files. And we'll let it run here to finish this part and show you what happens next. And let's see what we get here. The starting Windows screen. You get a pretty good angle with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And we like English, and we're in the United States, and keyboard US, and we're going to click next. And we're going to install. And we accept the agreement, the Windows 7 Home Premium Agreement. And you click Next. And we are going to upgrade to a new version of Windows and keep files. We don't care about that. And we're going to go to Custom. And there's our unallocated space, 214. Remember our RAID, it doesn't show both. This one is the 1.5 terabyte drive, so we're definitely installing up here. Click next. You can do drive options if you need to format your drive in here, but we're not going to do any of that. I know we're good to go when we set up the RAID. So we're going to click next. And it's going to copy Windows files, which it did, and now it's going to expand them. And this is going to take a few minutes to go from 0% to 100%. So we'll sit here with the camera on and show you it go to 1%, and then we'll turn off the camera and wait till this gets into the 90s. This takes a little while. There's no reason to watch a computer work. From my experience in the past, this expanding Windows files thing takes a little while to get going. That's why it's sitting on 0%. But as soon as it starts going, it goes pretty quick. It doesn't take this long to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. It starts to move pretty good. My camera person has a cough. This is okay, we're at 1%. We might as well shut down the camera. See, it's at 2. See how it starts to move? 3. Okay, we're back, and it's in the 90s. 90% done with expanding Windows files. And in a few moments it'll go on to the next step. Installing features, installing updates, which it's going to fail. I do not have an internet connection, so that's good. And it's going to restart on its own. You can click the restart button if you want, but by the time you grab your mouse usually or get back to it, usually you can walk away while Windows is installing, and it'll reboot on its own. And sometimes, depending on your computer, you may have to remove the Windows disk right now. If not, it'll load right from the hard drive, which it did. Setup is updating registry. And it'll take a few minutes to complete the installation. So we're going to go ahead and shut down now because this takes another 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, it is completing setup and the computer has rebooted itself again. So you just kind of kick back and let Windows do its thing. And this boot up time will speed up a lot when Windows finds the right RAID drivers, and those Vertex hard drives will take off. Setup is checking video performance, which is actually useless at that moment because I have to put the video drivers in. We're going to call this computer Theater. We should just call it burner because it's going to be a fast burner. So in our home network, I am just going to call it BURNER, burner PC, and we'll go to next. And we're not going to give it a password right now. We're going to next. And we've got to find the product key and enter that in our book here. And where is the product key? On the back side here. So you'll find your product key on the back of your Windows box. And we're not going to automatically activate Windows either. I'm going to do that manually. And I am going to read the product key and enter it in here. And you all are going to get a Windows key. I'm going to put them all in except for the last couple sets just so you don't have the Windows product key. 8, 9. Can they see that?
Mm-hmm. P7CKY. Okay, we're going to cut the video here to complete this. And then I'm going to click next and we'll move on from there with the video. Alright, it accepted my product key and has moved on to this page. And right now we're just going to use recommended settings. And we're going to make sure that the time's right. We're in Pacific time. Automatically adjust the clock for daylight savings time. It's the 16th and it's 6:28. And we're going to click next. And we're moved on to Windows is finalizing. And once this is done, we'll reboot and carry on from here. You need to load the motherboard drivers in next. There's a few other drivers. Check all your drivers. I'm going to have to install video card drivers to get the screen right. Make sure Windows installed the right RAID drivers and things like that. And there we go. We got sound and we actually have Windows. But we don't have the right video drivers and it's looking for an internet connection. I'll have to give that here shortly to activate Windows. And some drivers I like to use, we get them from online. So for now we're going to click start and we're going to reboot this computer one more time. First we're going to remove our installation CD, our Windows 7 CD, before we do this. And we're going to restart the computer just to make sure it reboots and Windows loads before we move on. And it's doing good. That's loading the RAID, loading the operating system, starting Windows. And it's booting up pretty darn quick. Okay, before we move on, I just want to check a couple things. We're clicking start. We are right-clicking on computer and we're clicking on properties. And it does show that we have 16 gigabytes of memory installed, which is great. We've installed a 64-bit operating system. This is our processor, the i7-2600K, running at 3.4 gigahertz. And we're going to have to activate, which is fine, but first we're going to have to do things in the device manager. We're clicking on device manager. And this is the VGA problem we're having with the graphic cards for our Sapphire Radeon 5770s to fix these. Ethernet controller and all this other stuff here will be fixed by the motherboard CD. So we will be installing that here shortly. And we can cut from Okay, last we left you with the cautions we had in the device manager. and we're going to fix most of those. This DVD comes with your motherboard, and we're just going to load that and load all the motherboard drivers. And we'll give that a second to auto load. And here it comes. Okay, you don't need to open the folders, you just want to click run to execute this. And this is the Gigabyte series, and we're just going to install all as soon as they all load. I always use Gigabyte motherboards just because they have a lot of nice things for overclocking, and here's the Realtek high definition audio driver, and this is going to be the LAN driver for your internet, and here's the Intel RAID storage driver that's going to speed up that RAID, USB drivers, and the management engine. And this is very good. So we're just going to click install all. And it's just going to take a minute or two. It says it's going to take 16 minutes, and I doubt it. Okay, just to save video time, this won't take 16 minutes, but we are going to stop the video, and we'll come back if there's a problem with any of these installations and let you know what happened. But we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, it has installed the motherboard drivers. Now it's asking me if I want to install Gigabyte utilities, and I actually don't at this time. The Gigabyte utilities, they have some good stuff for overclocking easier and stuff like that if you want to do that. If I decide to mess around with this computer like that at a later time, you can always put in this disk again and do that. So for right now, I'm going to click no. And we're going to do an antivirus software later after we do all the Windows updates and everything you got to do to get the computer finished. I install Microsoft Security Essentials, which is the latest product from Microsoft. It's free and updates free. So we're not going to do that right now either. And install's finished, and it's asking me to reboot. Yeah. Ask me later. We don't have an internet connection right now. And so we are going to manually reboot. And we're going to take the disk out. And then when the computer boots up, we're going to check the device manager and see if it cleared up all our problems there except for our video drivers. And we are booting up pretty quick. Don't like this Zynga Games that seems to be loading. And put a screen down here from the motherboard drivers had this. So we'll install that at a later time. But for now we're going to come in and we're going to right click on computer, go into properties, and we're going to click on the device manager. And we can see everything is cleaned up except for the VGA. Now normally I would go directly online and get the latest drivers, but I'll do the installation driver CD from Sapphire just to get it working, and then at a later time I will go for the updates. We can cut okay, when we last left off, we had fixed everything with the motherboard drivers, and normally I go online just to get the latest ATI Sapphire Radeon drivers online. but I did get this installation disk from Sapphire. So I am going to install these drivers. I can always change them later if I don't like them for some reason. So we're going to close this down and close this down, and I got to remember to delete that later. And we're going to put this disk in here. And give it a few moments to come up. And see if we can't get 1080p out of this machine. Okay, run and launch. And ATI easy install sounds good to me. And Windows 7. And say yes. And it says it'll do the HD Radeon 57 series. That's what we have in there. And see if I can't show you how to do the crossfire. Alright, we're going to need to get this to go away. Auto hide the taskbar. Apply it, and there it goes. And we like English. Let's click next. And we're going to install. And Express install is fine. We accept the agreement. And it doesn't, we let it create it. And here we go. This will take a few minutes. And usually the screen goes black and comes on. So if you're using these type of video cards and that happens to you, just don't worry. It's just installing the drivers. This will just take a few minutes. I hope it detects both the cards on one install. And then I can go in and set up the crossfire. Currently installing the ATI driver. There was the HDMI. And here's the Catalyst Control Center. And it should tell us to reboot. And there we go. It's install complete. Click finish. System needs to reboot. Let's reboot and pop the CD out of the drive. That was good enough. It boots up pretty darn quick. And look, everything shrunk. We're running in 1080p. Catalyst. Just say Control Center, Advanced View. Oh yeah, we can go. I'm going to change the screen size just a little bit. Look at that. Enable Crossfire. They automatically know I have it. So it's check mark, and we're going to click OK. And let's see what we are running in right now. And we are running in 1080, which is recommended. If you want to see things a little better, you can pull it down a little bit. But when you're watching movies and everything, full 1080p if your monitor or your television can handle that. So let's go back into Device Manager. Right click on Computer, left click on Properties, The rating is a 1 because we haven't done the index rating. I'll do that at a later time after I activate Windows. But for now, just for the video, I want to show you that everything is okay and we don't have any question marks. So first thing we can look at is the disk drives. And if you remember our RAID, we called it fast. So that right there is both of the OCZ Vertex 2 solid state drives. That's that 1.5 terabyte Western Digital drive. Our display adapters are now the ATI Radeon HD 57 series, and they're both okay right there. This will show us our Blu-ray drive right there, DVD with Blu-ray drive. Key mounts, we don't care about that. Monitor, we didn't line that up. Our network adapter is fine. Oh yeah, and I was going to talk to you about the processors. Watch this. It's going to show that we have 8 processors in this computer. And there they are. Even though we have one quad core, but remember I told you that each quad core had its own 2 threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like we have 8 processors in this computer. And our sound, we have high definition Realtek high audio. And this computer is good to go. You'll just have to load your own software on a computer like this to get it to do what you want. But as for the basic setup and startup, everything is great. We'll have to do some Windows updates and everything like that to load Windows Security Essentials on here. And there you have it. We are shutting down the computer. And I just want to thank you very much from start to finish. The parts, the build, and loading an operating system on. And thank you very much. Goodbye for now. Alright, in conclusion, I want to tell you where I get my parts. First of all, TigerDirect.com is a good place to look up computer parts and search around because they have everything in categories. For example, if you're looking at processors, you can see all the processors and all the prices. Once I've decided on the processor, for example, that I want to use, I check Tiger Direct's price, their shipping costs, and I also shop Amazon.com, put the exact product name in there, and usually Amazon will ship it for free. So sometimes Amazon.com is a lot better than Tiger Direct when it comes to price. I also said during the filming that I'd give you the prices on all the parts that you saw in this build. So quickly, I'm going to go through them real quick. The Gigabyte mid-tower case, the case was $27. The Ultra 600 watt ATX power supply was $56. The Samsung Blu-ray drive was $70. The Western Digital hard drive, that 1.5 terabyte hard drive, was $70. The RAM, they come in 2 packs, the 8 gigabytes, 2 packs, and each 8 gigabytes was $100. So $200 for the RAM. That Intel Core i7 2600K processor is $315. And the OCZ 120 gigabyte Vertex 2 solid state drives are $210 each. And then we have the Sapphire Radeon 5770 video cards, and right now they're about $115 each. And then what do we have left? Oh, the motherboard, the Gigabyte P67A LGA 1155 motherboard was $210, and Windows 7 64-bit about $100. There you have it. Okay, they're saying I need to give some contact information. We are Bill space Lisa space Menold, M-E-N-O-L-D space Johnson, J-O-H-N-S-O-N, on Facebook. Or you can email us at BillLisa, it's BillLisa at Menolds.com.
That's BILLISA at MENOLDS.com. Thank you very much.